Okay, well, I would like to welcome everyone to the Coffee Talk Podcast number 30. It's a round number. I
Wow.
think it's divisible by 3, 10, 15, 6, 5. We could have a whole podcast just how many different numbers divide into 30. But um no, we are very fortunate to be joined by the let's see, the reborn, the summoned, the graceful. Um, I used to call him Thuber because I just looked at the name, but the Uber Elite is here. And so hello and welcome.
Yeah, Thuber actually works pretty well. I've
Okay.
I've had multiple people call me that as well. But hey,
Yeah.
thanks for having me.
Yeah. Um, so I think one thing to mention just before we start, we were talking about it a little bit, I guess on our sort of pre-warm-up thing. There is the community racing stuff going on, which I highly encourage people to check out. Which it's a little, it's like we're in this weird place where I feel like I've been somebody who's participated in racing for the longest time. Somehow I haven't found the time to get involved in the community thing. That's not like a mark against them. That's a mark against me. I've just been busy. But both Noogie and Uber have participated a lot in them. And I just wanted to give that a little shout out. You should definitely check it out. It's on YouTube. It's on Twitch. It seems like it's happening every weekend. I don't know if Noogie wants to say anything. Like,
Well, it is. It is happening every weekend. And next weekend is going to be very exciting. We have the Wheel of Fortune race. Well, the wheel.
Yes.
The race called the Wheel, and some community chosen skill event. So if you wanna put out your input on what skill we're gonna be using, then jump on Reddit, and there's a poll going on right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Uber, have you enjoyed doing them? So you've done like 5 of them. You've commentated on a bunch. I mean, I don't know the
Yeah.
exact numbers.
Yeah, they've been pretty fun. I kind of try to avoid doing any of the races that are just gonna end up being, oh well, it's just another Sunder race. Partially because I don't like Sunder, partially because I'm also bad at Sunder. I never was somebody that raced Melee ever. So
Right.
There aren't many Sunder.
Because you did Spectral Throw, right?
yeah, I did Spectral Throw, but that's not really Melee.
Well, no, I know that. I'm just saying it. Sorry, what did you say, Noogie?
I did Spectral Throw, I did bow racing, and then I eventually switched to caster. So
Oh, you did?
yeah, I was doing like after getting rank 3 signature on Ranger in season 6, I think I was rank 3 Shadow in season 7.
Okay. So what actually? How did you feel jumping from a ranger to a caster? How did that feel?
It was pretty interesting. I think the main reason was that I think that was the time where I found out about Searing Bond.
Oh,
And that's what really prompted me to switch to caster.
was that actually a build for a while? Searing Bond in races?
Well,
Yeah.
Uber was the only one who really, I feel like, made it work, as I recall.
Oh, okay.
Right? Am I wrong, Uber?
Yeah. I remember I told you I feel like I told you about it, and like you had in one of the 3-hour party races, you had Hellman. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Hellman- yeah.
Yes, 100%. But I'm just saying, in terms of like the 3-hour party races, you could kind of make any skill work. I mean, it was definitely very good and work. I'm just saying, in terms of like actual make it work and like have a chance to win a signature demi in a solar race, I feel like Uber was the only one making Searing Bob. But of course, as soon as Uber did the run, didn't people try to copy you at that point, as I recall?
Yeah, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. I think that's probably around the time where I didn't race too much.
Yeah, I think it would have been like the season or two after you did the Spectral Throw season.
I did, yeah.
I
did.
The next.
Yeah.
So do you think it was funny, Uber, to me when I watched the SRS kill, or sorry, I should say the Azaro kill with SRS that people were doing? I was, it's one of these things where I don't know if someone watching the race got the same thing out of it that I got out of it, even though. Did you get second or third, Uber?
I got third.
Third, okay. But your Azaro kill, I kind of felt like went the best of anybody who was killing
Yeah.
Azaro. And it's just so funny that I was watching the comments, I didn't see anybody really say anything, but it's kind of like, Uber, you're like known for doing SRS stuff, right? The Baron stuff. you know, all this stuff. I was not surprised that the kill went so smooth. You stood in the you stood in a corner, and I was like, oh, that's an interesting strat. So the boss had to run to you. And that meant your SRS didn't run off to the statues or whatever. So do you think that SRS is like the best summoner skill? I don't know. We talked about having you on just because summoners seem to be getting a lot of love. So I'm curious what you think is like the meta or the I don't know, anything.
For summoners, I would say SRS is really good. Raise Specter is obviously getting love now because we've got the whole Specter persistency that's supposed to be coming this week. Right. So right now with the mobs that we have for Specters, I would say Specters are kind of a bit better, but in terms of leveling, SRS is kind of the skill that you really want to use, and it's also viable in game. So I guess best all rounder would probably be SRS.
Mm-hmm. In terms of so you're talking about leveling, what would you say would be needed? Like, do you think that they need to maybe give some of the other summoning skills some love for leveling at least?
Yeah. You can make skeletons work, but you need a ton to do it. You can like zombies, no. Leveling with zombies is not a good idea. And
do you think it's a mistake? Yeah. Can I just because I don't, did you see, like, it wasn't it Dan and God, one of the other variety streamers, they were playing as zombies like the whole time, weren't they? It seems like it's
Dan
like
might have been,
build that attracts.
Dan was doing Specters,
okay.
I think, right?
Okay.
Yeah. Dan eventually went Specters, I know that.
Okay.
Okay. It seems like it's a mistake sometimes that some of these aren't as good, you know, for leveling when people are attracted to it and they're like, wow, this blows. But maybe that's PoE. I don't know what Uber thinks about that.
Yeah. I think one of the problems is that Desecrate is a level 16 skill. And so, like, if you're on a boss fight and you're trying to level with zombies, like, how are you going to get more zombies?
Right.
You got to portal out, you got to go to another zone, you got to find a way to kill these mobs, and then...
That's true.
And that's how you get your zombies, so...
How did you... They did some... could you speak to the changes they did to the zombie AI? Because I know that they've changed some AI over like the years and the patches, but I feel like this patch in particular, or like in 3.0 at least, I've seen so many Reddit posts where someone will post the zombies literally standing next to a single monster, and you have 12 zombies running around in circles and never hitting it.
That's not really a new issue, actually.
Okay.
The AI changes, what they changed was like how they pathfind. So you could like flame dash over a ledge or something, and the zombies would just sit there even though there's like a staircase next to them. Like, you could go to Harbor Bridge, flame dash up onto the like middle section and be next to a staircase, and the zombies would just stare at you like, how do I get there? You know? And one of the recent patches fixed that, so they would actually like walk around and actually go up the staircase now. It takes them a while. It takes them a little bit, but it's gotten better.
Okay.
It's actually gotten better. They don't just get stuck in corners. You know, Torture Chamber would actually basically be exactly that name. It was literally a torture chamber for summoners, because they would just get stuck in corners and you would be stuck with your 8-second convocation cooldown trying to just pull them back to you all the time when they just keep getting stuck in corners. But as for the like AI thing where they don't attack mobs, that's just because of their last targeted skill. Like, they're targeting their skills. Oftentimes this happens like near a box, so they target like the box with whatever equilibrium skill they're using, and there's like this one mob off to the side, and they're just standing there, and they're like, why aren't the zombies attacking this? Well, because zombies have like a certain aggro radius around where you last targeted your last skill. And that's why like they're not attacking the mob, because that's not in the aggro radius. There's also things where like there's line of sight issues where if you can't see a mob, sometimes the zombies can't attack it.
Do you know how it works with arc? Let's say that you use like a random skill right towards an area, but if you arc something and it hits it, will they then go to the thing that's been hit if you just click Do you know that?
I'm actually not sure. I would imagine like Arc has a big enough range to it where like, well, actually I don't know because you can aim Arc away from yourself and it'll still hit something like behind you.
I thought they went to where your mouse was, and
Yeah.
I thought we only know that from the interaction of what's it, Primal Might? What's the golem thing that makes golems aggressive? So like if that's in and out, you can definitely see where the golems. It's weird though if you give them the aggressive thing, and then they actually don't. I don't know how to describe. Like they don't respond to where your mouse is as much, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, when they're aggressive, they're just killing everything. And then if that's out and they're over on your left and then you click on your right, they immediately sort of run over to where you've clicked. Right? Am I wrong?
Yeah. The primordial might jewel kind of just like changes that radius of like around where you click. It changes that and makes it like gigantic. So
it's like your entire screen or something almost.
Yeah.
Do you think that they should make that something like that for every minion or summoner or whatever, every type of gem that summons something?
Sometimes it's kind of good, like zombies. Some things just need a bigger radius in general, because like I'm pretty sure that certain minions have bigger radiuses of where they can aggro. Like you look at animate weapon versus like zombies, and it feels like animate weapon has like a bigger circle around where you click where it can aggro mobs in comparison to zombies. At least that's what I've experienced, because I played animate weapon and I played specters with zombies and just pure specters this league so far. And I definitely notice a difference with animate weapon.
Speaking of animate weapon, are you ever bitter about the fact that was sort of your jam for a long time and then it got the sort of attention treatment, aka people saw how insane it was, coupled with the sword.
Severin Sleep.
I can't think of the name.
Oh, the sword was so stupid.
Yeah.
The sword. I don't know how that like. Well, I guess it was getting released because like Poison was set to get the chopping block eventually, anyways. So.
Yeah.
I mean, Animate was especially with Cast on Channeling coming out, and like the sword really enabled it to be insane. Absolutely insane. Cast on Channel definitely helped, but it was mostly the sword that gave the free link. And, I'm not really, like, annoyed about it at all. I mean, I've been playing the skill for a really long time. I have to give credit here. I actually got the inspiration from Nugi, because Nugi actually did Animate Weapon before me.
Yeah.
And, that was in, God, what league was that? It was in like 1.2, 1.3.
It's a long time ago. It's back when MOM was or not MOM. EB was still a thing.
Yeah, you were avoiding EB and just looking for mono rolls and gear. I just said screw it, I'm getting EB.
Yeah, you could make it work eventually, just with mana.
Yeah.
It was really hard. It was. I thought it was the better end game strat eventually, but
yeah.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. And I have to say, I actually stole the idea from someone on Reddit. Well, nobody had made a real build around it to do it like in mapping. It was just like a cheese thing for killing. I think I just saw someone killing like regular piety or vault or something, with like leveling up with 50. They had 50 weapons in their inventory. They threw them all on the ground and summoned them all and just immediately killed the boss. And back then,
yeah.
Back then, killing bosses were difficult. It took a while. So just seeing them just evaporate like that kind of inspired me to try out a build like that.
Yeah. Back then, it took you like 15, 30 seconds to kill the shipyard boss or something.
Right.
And so Animate Weapon going in and killing it in 2 seconds was like, what?
Yeah. No, it was crazy. It was crazy.
Does Animate still work now with all the poison changes, or no?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
I did Elemental. I've killed. You can kill Phoenix in like 4 or 5 seconds.
Oh, with Ellie?
Or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah, with Elemental. You kind of need to run Blood of Corruption for it though, because
they are
kind of squishy.
Yeah, you have to just sit there and tank and kill him before they kill you.
Which one's is that the amulet? Blood of corruption?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the thing that gives you elemental immunity.
Right.
The gluttony of elements skill.
Oh, was that the thing that why you died, Dungy? Because you got stunned when
I
you...
tried to cast it, didn't see, because I had like a million buffs at top, so I didn't see it didn't trigger.
Right.
And then I stood
I
I stood in the explosion. 13,000 ES. Boop.
Can I, speaking of amulets, I know it's a little off topic of minions, and we'll come back to it. Did you guys see, because I mean, I was fucking blown away, that build that was linked on Reddit, the permafreeze when you get bonked build, as I would call it, with Winterheart?
Yeah.
I've been meaning to watch that.
Oh my god. You know, it's one of those things where I just want to say this is what makes Path of Exile such a cool thing. I mean, did you see it, Nookie? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, it's based on, well, I don't know if it's based on it or it's just two people doing the same thing. Last league, there was a guy doing, this was with ES instead. So you didn't have to use the, what's the belt called? The one that gives you threshold, the cold threshold?
Oxium?
Yeah, the Oxium. That's how it works. Because you use the Oxium to get the threshold of the energy shield, and if you have no energy shield, well then any cold damage freezes you, essentially.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It's kind of like Skyforth if you have blood magic.
Yeah, exactly. But there were some people doing it before, getting themselves frozen. Right, so they could just face tank Shaper. They have like they had like 25,000 ES, and then Shaper does all cold damage, and so you get frozen all the time. So every time he would get frozen, he would get the 20% regen on his 25,000 ES pool. I said, oh, okay. So he couldn't die.
Okay.
Yeah, he was. I think I remember that he was like standing in Shaper, and it took him like 5 hours to kill it.
Yeah,
but
something
like, he
like
eventually
that.
died.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, I love interactions like that. I think that's definitely one of the things that makes the game cool. It is unfortunate that we exist in the time when once it's shared on Reddit, you know that it's going to be removed from the game, and most likely.
Maybe.
I don't think that's gonna get removed.
You don't think it'll get removed? Okay. I mean, maybe I missed...
We live in a world where clear speed is everything.
Yeah.
So.
I guess that's true. It takes a long time to kill it, so...
Yeah. When you have tank interactions, GG's probably gonna look at that and then gonna be like, oh, that's cool, but we've got bigger issues on our hand where people are just, you know, sprinting through maps as fast as possible. And
I think they're happy to see people going with a tank option, taking their time and still enjoying that playstyle. It's not everything is not all about just blowing up bosses.
Well, so okay, go Uber.
Like when you have like builds that are specifically like super tanky to, you know, farm Minotaur and things like that, and take like almost no damage. I think that's a great option to have those sorts of builds in the game. And I think GG would think the same. Like, you kind of want those, you know, weird, funky, but super tank builds in the game, so that you have these things that aren't just, hey, I wanna blow through everything. No, I want to just be able to. I might not have super fast clear speed, but I can kill bosses really, really easily. And I think that's balanced.
Yeah. Well, so then, do you think that the better way to balance, just to, because it's something I wanted to ask about, is it better to nerf the item or nerf the drop rate? Because we saw an example of this with the Baron, right, where the Baron became almost unachievable, I guess, the first week or two of the
yeah.
You know, I mean, obviously, super rich people can get it, but
what's the item called again?
The
freeze one.
Winterheart.
That is really rare, isn't it? Though I think I've only found.
It is pretty
I've
rare.
only found one, ever.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's a gold amulet too. I know you found some rare gold amulets.
Yeah.
Plenty.
Yeah.
Mister, I found 8 Biscos in SSF.
Yeah, that thing is pretty good, man.
Hey, it is. I still don't have a Biscos drop.
Wow.
But yeah, Winterheart is pretty rare.
So maybe that's the cap, is that it's a rare enough item that it's okay.
I think if it catches on, it's one of those things as well. What you're seeing with Mortis here, if we're talking specters as well, is that the moment it catches on and people recognize its power, and people are trying to buy them, you'll see the price skyrocket, because if it has no use, it just kind of sits there and it accumulates over time. But if there's only like a very limited influx of them, well, eventually when people start picking them up and they just disappear from the market, well, then obviously there's not enough coming in and it's just going to go up in price. Same thing with Vis Mortis right now. Vis Mortis is actually a pretty rare item. I think I've found one this league, just one, and well. Yeah. Just if you take that into consideration, and I haven't really seen them before either, well then you start getting you start understanding the power of the item as well, right? It's +1 specter, it has some really good stats, and it is really rare. So it was just not utilized very much because of the specters being annoying.
I mean, you could kind of see it with like I think having sort of an endgame unique like Baron being your most powerful helmet for something like SRS, I think making the drop rate more rare kind of makes sense in a way, because it's something that you aim for like your end game gear, and that's not really a bad thing to have. Instead of like this super common item, you know, that is really easy to sort of build around, or well, I guess something you want to be able to build around, you want to make common. Whereas something you just want for your end game, you want to make somewhat more rare. Like Frost Breath, for example. We had the Frost Breath Ice Crash Raider, which I've personally made a Frost Breath character as well. That's something you build around, so you want that to be common, so it's easy to get to make the build around. But
I think Frost Breath is. You can kind of. I think Frost Breath is one of those items where it requires a lot for it to be strong. Baron in itself. Well, I think it does, right? It requires you to build, like, if you just put it on, it's not strong.
Oh, yeah.
Right, Baron, I think Baron kind of gives you more power immediately without too much thought.
Yeah.
And then you can further that, obviously, by speccing into strength. But I think it takes a little bit more creativity around an item like that. It doesn't have a great stat line. It has a great stat saying when they're chilled, and it gives you more damage, but the damage on the item itself is super low. So it's not something that gives you inherent power immediately unless you figure out the right mechanic.
I mean, we do have the chill threshold. It's you have to do 0.2% of a monster's life in order to chill it for 1%, and that's the bare minimum chill. You still have to hit that threshold, but yeah, you do have to build around it. So,
how much strength it does the? Not why strength is. I don't mean the strength that you stack for Baron. I mean how much power is the Baron when you put it on for an SRS build? Does it double your power, triple your power?
It depends on how much strength you have.
Right.
Like.
Let's say you have 500 strength, right? Like a normal amount, 500-600 strength.
Yeah, 500 strength is 100% additive damage. You compare that to a bone helmet. That's basically over twice the amount of damage that a bone helmet's going to give you. And then you can add into the to the equation helmet enchants. You can actually put a helmet enchant on it, so you can get damage from that as well. Although that's obviously like, yeah, you have to kind of farm for that, but it's your ideal.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of power.
Yeah, because the thing that was so interesting to me is it seemed very, very strong, but it didn't really seem like it was. It didn't seem like it was game breaking. So to me, then what I was sort of wondering about, since I started playing SRS just because I felt like doing another minion for Harbinger, and I didn't want to do golems again. I know people in my stream were like, "Please don't do golems again." So, and so there I was playing it, and it just. Obviously, I never got the Baron because it was so expensive, and I didn't play as much, but I really just sort of... I don't know, has SRS really gotten that much better since the last time I would have tried it, like a year or two ago? It just feels like it's an auto-win skill a little bit. I don't know if that's the wrong way to phrase it.
It's the change from 50 to 20 cap that really made it like so good. Suddenly you get this additional link where you don't need to use Echo anymore. So... suddenly you have bonus links that you can use, and that's where we started putting in minion speed, because like that's the link we got. We the gem was rebalanced when we went from 50 to 20 cap, and
wasn't it around the same Well, probably a
Yeah,
little.
it was
Probably
around the
was it
same.
was it a little? I think it was a little weaker, but you get the extra link, so it probably maintains
and that's-
the total damage
Like-
at cap, which is
Yeah.
really sick.
And I mean, Carve was talking about it, like, the fact that you got that extra link and the cap went to 20 and you don't have to spend as much time standing still with the echo every time you cast actually made things like Shaper a lot easier.
Yeah.
And that's really where SRS started becoming really good, is that lower from 50 to 20.
Right. Well, because Carve was doing the bow strat, right, on his solo cell phone guy.
Yeah.
He was using the whatever. What's that card again? The divination card. I can't, the
Porcupine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or just going crude bow and essencing. And yeah.
Yeah.
That was when CI was like the meta.
Right. Do you think that the fact that minions scale so well with +1 is like? Do you think that's like a good thing or a bad thing? Because like I don't know. I'm looking when couldn't remember this chest, the Vis Mortis chest. It came out in 1.1.
Oh, it's an
I guess-
old
Yeah.
chest.
An old chest. But on Holy Might, I guess that was the 2.6. Isn't 2.6 Legacy?
And Holy Might doesn't do too much though.
No, I guess.
Well,
not.
Unholy Might back then was actually pretty massive, because the meta for specters back then was Undying Evangelists.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Right.
So
But do you think that people didn't use this chest because at least for some time, the +1? I know there was the Chayula's chest with +1. I've got to believe that makes this +1 versus another Spectre. I'd be curious what the math would say.
Oh, no. Okay, so Spectres gain way more from additional Spectres than +1. Spectres gain almost nothing from +1.
Okay.
Because
Right.
it
Yeah, I'm not
just
familiar
gives
with them at
you,
all,
I think it
so-
gives you 2% more damage. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's poopy compared to it's like 20% for minions. Like
Yeah.
it's like times 1.2, I think, for every level.
Yeah.
That's
it's
what I recall.
it's a difference in scaling,
Okay.
because you're scaling a monster, a monster's damage, and it has specific stats because of it's using the monster level. Whereas a +1 for something like SRS, you're actually scaling the gem level, which
Right.
that's what the base damage is tied to, is the base level of the gem. So
Well, so that's good. So that does tie into my next question, which is, do you think it's a problem that Spectres, if this change is happening, do you think people are going to be Spectre happy, and there's just going to be that whatever the burning miscreants, evangelists / I don't know what I guess those like gargoyle Batman looking things that are at least I
Kataba's
saw.
Heralds, yeah.
Kataba's Heralds, yeah. Do you think that it's going to be more of a problem now that they're making the quality of life? I mean, again, I don't think that's a bad thing,
Problem?
right? Because it's a
In what
quality
say?
of life.
In what sense?
Well, okay, so I do think that there's a problem where there have been monsters that have been sort of removed from the game and how they operate a little bit because people were able to make specters out of them, and I always thought that was a little bit of a shame.
Because you think
Like
because
the
they're
Burning
too
Miscreants
strong,
used to
or
be scary. Yeah, because they're too
Okay.
strong. Yeah.
Like we've had the D-Gem bears. I
Right,
remember
D-Gem bears,
Crypt
oh God.
did that.
With Vol. Oh my god.
Yeah, you literally just get because the D-Gem bears, what they were, because I'm sure a lot of people didn't play back then.
No.
They were % life based damage
yeah,
Right.
on the enemy. They were based on the enemy's life.
Yes.
So, and you could increase that with shock, and shock stacked up to 3 times at the time. So you would just like prolift shock onto the boss, and you would get like, a whole bunch of % damage per second of based off of chaos, and scale that with, all these other things, and it would always be every single boss dies in this amount of
Yeah.
time.
like every monster in the game died in the same amount of time. regardless of if it was a little white goat or a monkey, or if it was a Vaulty Oversoul in the highest maze map you could find, which was kind of hilarious. Yeah. It's one of the things where I think they are a little bit afraid in general of. It's probably also why you don't see a lot of buffs to something like DD. Just because DD, again, a percent-based skill, like anything that scales of that can be very dangerous in PoE. It's because once you break the threshold where it just kills, well, then everything dies regardless.
DD is kind of in its really awkward spot now because they buff buff boss life. But like, how do you buff that skill without making the clear like ridiculous? Yeah. Well, other than the fact that Desecrate has a cooldown, but that's like a whole nother issue. And when it comes to specters, I think with these changes, we're gonna start seeing people that play specters be like, you know, there's gonna be all these other issues that start coming up because there's gonna be more people playing specters, and people are gonna be like, well, why don't specters scale up to zone level, or why is it not just based off the gem? You know, things like that. And or why does Desecrate spawn specific level mobs? Why do I need to get a high level Desecrate in order to summon level 80 specters?
So Uber, could you enlighten us to why that is?
I don't know why they don't. Well, I have an idea of why they don't scale up. Because there are some mobs where they're not supposed to spawn anywhere else. If you look at Malagaro's Sanctum, there's a mob in there that does something similar to flame golems.
The lightning ball?
Like they throw out, they throw out the lightning balls.
Yeah.
And those don't appear anywhere else in the game. They don't appear in maps. They don't appear in any other zone. There's no other way to get those except that zone. So, and Mark actually had some posts on Reddit, like actually talking about, you know, why are some of these things an issue? You know, what happened? They had to make a system for persistent specters before they could actually implement it in the game, because they have to answer things like, you know, what happens if a monster skill is buffed? What happens if we have to straight up remove a monster from the game because there's an issue? Like you know, the whole Carrion Queen issue that happened that one league where a whole bunch of people died, and it was like the only time they ever rolled back. Like, what happens if something major happens with a monster and they can't really roll it back, but they have to just straight up remove it from the game? But people have specters of that, you know. They have to figure things like that out. Right. And it is kind of weird that specters do downscale, but they don't upscale. And it's really awkward when you get prophecies that spawn level 70 mobs in like a level 34 zone, and those level 70 mobs instantly kill your level 34 specters. And I think that's a serious issue that needs to be addressed. But yeah, I'm not totally sure why, but I can get some ideas. And it's one of those things where I feel like people really need to think about like every possible like problem that can be that can come from having upscaling and downscaling from, because I think people just are like, wow, this is an issue. I'm gonna post about this on Reddit without thinking about it, you know?
Right.
I think it might just be because I've played with specters and I kind of enjoy it. I will say the persistent specters is something I really find as a good and healthy change, because there are things in the game that you can't do anything about. Like, the game can crash. Like, there are times where you're just like thrown out of the game, and in those instances you're cheated out of all your time, and I think that's a bad thing. But I do actually enjoy getting the high level specters and having that as so whenever you're doing a normal spell skill, you vault them for +1 and you do all these extra things to get the power up on the gem. But with the specter, if it just keeps upscaling, well, then you just kind of put in your specter and it just keeps growing, and there's never a time where you feel that you're gaining extra power because you did something. And the journey in this whole specter game is kind of cheapened that way. So you're just powerful throughout. I personally enjoy the having to go in and get to a Guardian map, and yes, I'm finally there. I found my spectrum. My setup is complete. This is awesome.
Yeah, and there's still an issue with that, because you still have to be in the correct map for the Spectre to spawn.
Yeah.
Now, granted, we do have the, you know, solar guards are like a really popular Spectre right now. So, and you can also get flame sentinels like this. We have the map mod for Solaris Fanatics, and I wonder if they like actually implemented this, like knowing that people were going to use flame sentinels, people were going to use solar guards, so that if you really want to, you can straight up force solar guards on any map. Now we don't have things like that for Wickerman and Tukoma's Vanguards, which is the other popular, like that's the really popular boss killing spec.
Yeah.
That one's really busted right now, and I think that's partially because of the interaction with Animate Guardian Dyatis. But
yeah, if you would enlighten us again, maybe to the Dyatis, because that is really insane.
Yeah, Dyatis has two specific modifiers on it. The one is it stacks. It's 100% increased burn damage on chilled enemies, taken by chilled enemies. Rather.
Yeah.
So it's a debuff on the enemy. So that's 200% increased burn damage taken, which ends up being a more multiplier. And this activates when the enemy is chilled. Dyatis' other thing is that when it's in the offhand and you hit with it, it chills them for 1 second baseline. Yeah. So with an Ice Tomb, that goes to 2.5 seconds. You just put those on Animate Guardian, and the Animate Guardian just smacks the mob, and whenever it gets chilled, it's suddenly taking 3 times the damage that it did before.
No, it's absolutely insane. It's the same. It's the same thing where people are doing with the RF in the early in the league.
Yeah.
Because it's not just, you're not just getting 100% burning damage. No, you're making the enemy take 100% burning damage. To give a bit of comparison here, for anyone who's been playing Poison, which probably most people who've been playing recently has, like prior to 3.0, so they know how strong it is when you get 20 stacks of Wither. Let's see, how much is 20 stacks of Wither? That's 7 times 20, so 140% increased damage, versus 200 by hitting it once.
Well, I mean, the Wither did double dip, but you know.
That is true, but again, in terms of like how much the buff was, let's say you didn't have poison, you're just like straight up hitting it, but yeah, okay, so it is double dipping, but still, it's in terms of if you're just looking at like a percentage stack and it's in one hit, you don't have to wait for the entire stack to come. It's crazy. It's absolutely insane.
I mean, you do have the issue of minion accuracy.
Yeah, you can.
And it's so I really want to make a whole topic about this, because like. I think they still need to rebalance minions in certain ways, where you've got zombies running around with a 450 accuracy at a level 20 jump.
Yeah.
What the hell is that? 450 accuracy, that's what like, we go back to the racing thing earlier, that's probably the amount of accuracy you'd be leap slamming around in docks with.
Yeah. Like, well, you know, and it's interesting, that's something that's actually been a pet peeve of mine for a long time, is the whole... It's weird. They have a system for resistances, right? However they want to, whatever. And it's weird that they don't take that. I just think it's such beautiful logic, even though at the time, I guess people hated it. But I just think there's something to be said for normal. I mean, I guess that's the thing. It's weird now, but I'm just saying the 3 difficulties, however we get them now with the 10x, where you were just kind of helped out a little bit in normal. And I always thought that was such a, I don't know, like I think there should be 0 accuracy penalty in normal, personally, or I don't know, 95. Everyone's at 95%, and then there's a penalty in cruel, and then the full penalty in merciless, because it just feels so. As a new player, which I feel like when you race a lot, you get to see what a new player would encounter. So you run into a pack of monsters in ledge, and you cleave, and you miss a bunch of times. You're just like, what the fuck's going on? I feel like that's. I mean, I think they want that a little bit, right? Because that's sort of that's PoE. It's a little more hardcore. I just always, I don't know. You don't miss with spells. It'd be one thing if spells missed. I would be like, okay, that's the game, but it's not. It's only for melee, which is a bizarre. I I don't know. I don't know what.
I actually think it's really weird, especially on minions, because you don't have any way. Well, you have one way now. Before Lycos today, you have you had no way. You had no way of actually giving your minions proper accuracy without having to sacrifice an entire gem slot. And since the skills, all like specters and minions are already kind of balanced around like regular like spell builds, right? Where accuracy doesn't matter. Like everything is scaled throughout the spell level of the like base damage, and you put on the gems, and it scales up to an appropriate amount. And then you have anything that uses accuracy. And the higher you go up, it just becomes worse and worse and worse and worse and worse because the evasion goes up on the monsters. And you're just in this weird spot where you can't actually look at the tooltip saying what kind of accuracy I have. You don't have any way to check, oh, what is my... No, I don't believe that there is any way you can check monster accuracy. Is there? In-game? Tooltip-wise at all?
Not in
No, so
not yet. I mean,
even if you smack on an accuracy gem, you don't know that they're missing straight up because you can't see it, and I think that might be an issue.
Well, you kind of can if you, depending on how many you have. Like, if you've ever had a stone golem,
but you see them.
Level 20 stone
you see them
golem,
missing.
Yeah,
that is true. But you can't see whether or not it's 50% or it's 40 or it's 75. I think that's kind of a. I would like to.
Can SRS miss?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Accuracy is actually a good gem at high levels. It's just impossible for anyone to.
High-level maps.
Yeah, in high-level maps. But it's kind of impossible to see it earlier, or to see when it kind of chops over, and kind of the percentages. I don't know. Do you think they should have specter tooltips, or maybe not tooltips, but like stat sheets in game as for everything else?
Well, one of the things I think they did, I believe they actually, like, we were getting information on Path of Building about specter numbers, right? Apparently they obfuscated that. They made it harder to get. That's why we don't have things like the solar guards
really?
and stuff like that in Path of Building now. So it's a lot harder to see that kind of information, but we can get ideas of what those numbers are just based off of the player skills that they use, but it would be nice to have sort of these tooltips and know like what the accuracy is, what the evasion is of mobs. Actually having like some sort of, handbook about mob stats and stuff would be interesting.
Well,
and yeah. Go ahead.
It's just interesting as you're saying it, because it's always been something that I've always found like just not odd, but I always sort of giggle about, where PoE in some areas they kind of flip the script a little bit, where it's like you have so much customization, so many choices, but they want to keep this kind of very base thing hidden. And I mean, I understand the logic, because we see with Path of Building, like the game has like been sped up in terms of finishing your character. You just plug it in until you get to the best option. But it's just, again, like with accuracy, it feels like it's this problem, then it becomes not a problem at all for most characters, and then for minions you're like, oh, okay, so it's something we have to solve. Maybe that's an end game thing, that's a good thing, but we have no way to understand how to solve it, right? That's just such a it's weird to me a little bit that they don't want to provide it. I don't know, it's just been a strange thing, because how long did it take to get the spreadsheet with the minion, whatever it was, life out, like whatever you know what I'm talking about, that they finally provided.
Yeah, on the wiki, all the health numbers.
Oh no, they actually gave us spreadsheets.
Oh, they did?
Twice now.
Yeah. Twice, yeah.
Okay.
Like straight up from the office.
Oh.
They made a minion spreadsheet. I don't know, like it might just be they're too busy to work to get it out or something, but it did take a while for both of them, and I don't know, like neither of those spreadsheets actually contained accuracy values, and I honestly wonder if it's like something that GGG forgot about, like, because I don't know if I don't think they've changed accuracy on minions for a long time. Ever since they've been released, they've just been looking at the damage numbers, and really, when you start having the issue, like now we've got maps that go up to like level 84 or 85, things like that.
85?
And yeah, the Shaper, or no, 83. Sorry, I'm thinking Shaper drops like item level. Wait, no, Shaper's realm is 84, isn't it?
Yeah. Guardians are
Shaper's realm
83.
84. 88. Guardians are 83. Yeah. Sorry, I kept getting confused between the item level stuff that drops, but when you have the evasion scaling that high, but you have these old accuracy values that were probably balanced around having maximum level 77 maps, like suddenly their accuracy is, you know, below 70%. And what point when you have zombies that have a slam attack, when you have golems that have a slam attack that does really high damage, but it misses like 40% of the time, like,
you think they should just make some of the abilities, maybe have their base, like attack, default attacks just being with a penalty, but maybe have the actual cooldown, like the attacks on cooldown, maybe add resolute technique, or like cannot be evaded, like Vigilant Strike and such.
Yeah.
Would that be a solution?
Maybe. That could be a solution, but you still have the issue of things like Animate Weapon. Also, like you do have Animate Weapon doing a ton of damage, but like it would probably just feel better to, you know, nerf Animate Weapon's damage by like 20-25% and then add in minion accuracy stuff. Or potentially what you could do is all these minion damage nodes on the tree, all these minion attack speed nodes on the tree, why don't you just add 20% accuracy to them? Like, that solves a few issues. For mobs that actually use these skills in the game, because you always have to think about skills like this, about, okay, there's some mobs that use this, like there's the Fire Beyond boss that summons SRS, or there's like exiles and things that summon zombies, and you know, there are mobs in the game using these skills. So how do you balance this so that we have evasion characters not getting completely screwed by all of a sudden these things suddenly having high accuracy? If you add minion accuracy to the tree, that doesn't apply to those mobs anymore.
Right.
So you keep those skills at the same accuracy, but you suddenly have better accuracy on these minions without, you know, screwing up other parts of the game.
It seems like that's the most elegant solution, because for a long time I railed against them. Why the fuck are we adding accuracy to all these melee nodes when, why can't we just change how this works, because it's annoying as shit as a melee? But your point holds true, because there's all sorts of mobs that, you know, ground slam or whatever, you know, Molten Strike or something, and if we made them more accurate, people would be taking a shitload more damage, aka, and you know, evasion characters getting wrecked. So this is the way to, it seems, to fix it. So I actually think it's a really good suggestion. I'm surprised, in all honesty, that's not something that they haven't done on, like, you know, what is it, Lord of the Dead, or what's the witch node, and maybe like
I think you just add them to all the notables. I think a lot of the time on minion builds you also see notables not being picked up. Like, you pick only the minion damage and you ignore everything else.
Yep. I mean, that's true. I know that. I mean, again, the only real minion build I know is the Golem build, and I think several of the notables are not worth it. You might pick it up if you're like 97 or something. There's, you know, whatever, but it's not an important point. So that's an interesting. I actually really like that suggestion.
Yeah. I mean, you've got like minion damage in general is kind of like in a weird spot when in terms of scaling. Like, if you look at a melee build and the amount of % damage you get in comparison to like a minion build, like Necromancer is like the only thing you go for a minion build. Whereas a melee build, you've got Slayer, you've got Gladiator, you've got Juggernaut, you've got all these different things. You got Berserker, all of that. But you have to go Necromancer because you don't get enough, like, it gives you so much additive damage that if you go another class, you're sacrificing so much damage, you're sacrificing so many things that Necromancer is the only viable ascendancy for not viable, but you know.
So okay, let's we've talked about minions a lot. Weigh in then, because Nugi and I have talked about this a lot. So do you think that that's healthy, or unhealthy? That
I think
it's just
I think it's a bit unhealthy. Like, Necromancer has main things that make it good, and you can change around the minion system and probably rework the Necro Ascendancy to provide quality of life things, but still make other classes viable, such as, you know, Guardian. Crip had the animate weapon Guardian that the details of never got released, and I can actually talk about
build.
them.
Okay.
He said, because somebody actually did manage to make almost an exact version, and I talked about this with Crip actually. Like, he had a Guardian that was based off of making the minions more tanky, but in the end, you know, you don't have enough damage, and damage also equates to tankiness, because if you kill a mob, what's gonna do damage to you? Well, other than volatile and bears, but you know, when it comes down to it, you're losing so much damage by not going a Necromancer and not really sacrificing that much in terms of survivability, that it's like Necromancer is the only viable class, really, for
I do think in general,
other than like Elemental.
In general, in PoE, we have a lot of the time where we're kind of fighting the clock on a lot of the fights, or it comes down to, well, we need to push out enough damage to kind of like everything just evolves around, well, I have these buffs and I wanna kill before all these buffs runs out. And so anything you can fit into that time frame works. And then anything that has longevity is kind of it's okay, but the longer you stay in the fight, the worse it just becomes. There's never an upside to having a lot of longevity versus just having a lot of power up front.
Like you look at Shaper, for example. If you take too long to kill it, you know, suddenly you have the entire arena filled with vortexes, and like, where do you move without degenning to death unless you're super tanky? And you know, you have Chayla, which is, quite frankly, pretty brutal to try and stay in and fight unless you have good like sustain and stuff. So
well, I mean, it's interesting with Chayula, because I was one of my videos I posted. My character could not do Chayula, the get to Chayula, which is really the fight. And I mean, it's not all of it, but my character could kill Chayula pretty easily. The black max block Scorching Ray character. And so I mean, it's interesting how with that, I mean, I don't know that I like that, but hearing what you say, Uber, makes me realize that was intentional, clearly. Right, because they were making it so you can't even get to the boss and fail because your build wasn't good enough, because you're not supposed to fight her for more than, you know, I don't know, 45 seconds or a minute or something, right? So it's a damage check, and the fight itself, it's really hard to sustain on when you have to have, you know, this amount of damage in order to even get to her in the first place. Or was it a him?
So, yeah, it is.
I call it her.
Everybody does. It's fine. I still make the mistake. But
he seems pretty butch to me. I don't know.
I mean, Necro also has the defensive stuff.
Yeah.
You know, you look at the offering node. You have the bone offering. Bone offering is ridiculous. Like, you pop that. I pop that with Wrathpith on. I have 6170 block and like 600 life on block or something like that. And it's like, Jesus, Necro's insane. Like, and then when you want to clear fast, you've got the flesh offering. That node by itself kind of just gives Necromancer its identity.
Yeah, it does.
Pretty much every single Necromancer gets that node.
You think there's anything they could do to kind of propagate the minion builds out to other ascendancies?
Now that's where the problem comes in, is that when you look at a minion build, like when you look at the tree, there's like these few clusters. You're just grabbing minion damage wherever you can, but most of the additive damage is generally coming from that ascendancy.
It doesn't have 100. It's 180% or something, isn't it?
Something like that.
Yeah.
It's a lot of additive damage that you can't get anywhere else. You've got Bone Helmet, you've got the Katarina Glove Enchant. Now you've got Essence of Fear on like weapons, which generally,
well, you're just going to claw anyways.
You don't really use. yeah, you go Scourge or something else, but it's you kind of have to rework how minion damage percentage is, because like if you compare like how much percent damage you get in comparison to something like a melee bow, which gets like 500% damage or something like that on the tree, minion builds in comparison we're getting like 200-300%, and so if
Yeah,
you,
it's like
rework that,
if you look at it,
like
I think if you look at it versus something like Berserker, where you have a more multiplier,
yeah.
which is like the biggest damage boost of any node in the tree. It's like giving that up plus utility if you don't go Necromancer.
Yeah, it is Berserker without the downside, pretty much, by getting rid of Necro. But you have to like redo all this whole minion damage scaling and all of that, because so far everything minion based has been balanced around this.
Yep.
So
it's 160 in the Ascendancy, and then if you don't get 4, whatever I guess they're called notables, or like it's your lab 2 points you spend on the 2 mini nodes that just give small things, like so you don't need whatever the 4th notable node, you can get 175, and I think the tree itself only has like 100 minion.
Yeah, that's not a lot on the tree. Most minion builds you see just start stacking jewels after that.
Right. Yeah, and this is like even taking specters out of the equation, because the specters have the obviously like huge node, and I think that's fine. But like when you start taking other things into account, animate weapon, SRS, things like that, we have basically no other options really.
Do you think
if you want
do you think they should
stack damage?
Do you think there should be minion damage on the Necromancer tree? Well, obviously, I think the Spectre one is good, but do you think the generic minion damage should be there? Because I think that's what's like throws it off completely.
Yeah, it does definitely affect it quite substantially, but I think the problem is if you remove that, you're removing a substantial amount of damage for those necrobills, because there's not enough minion damage on the tree in the first place to replace that. You've got, again, the bone, like, you've got, what, 125% from gear itself, and then, like, God, how much is on the tree? 15, 20, like, probably, like, 100%. It's hard to get rid of that and, not substantially hurt Necromancer's damage, or Summoner build's damage. I think it's just one of those things where there's not enough nodes on the tree or for minion builds, and you have to add more of that, which will impact Summoner's survivability. But at this point, honestly, when you counter in the fact that we have so many minions and you've got Summoners running around with 9k life, and 9k effective life, and then a bunch of minions in front of them as well, I think they can take a hit in survivability and be fine. So if you do an entire rebalance on minions, which, yeah, it's going to take time, so we're probably not going to see this for a while if it is planned at all. I think it's going to be fine, but we just need more minion damage on the tree to actually like nerf the skills and in response, and then we can like look at Necromancer and then making the Ascendancy choices for minion builds more diverse.
See, this is why I hate Ascendancy. Not because, see, this is the thing, is I think Ascendancy is super cool, right? Just like there's a lot of stuff that I think people don't always get it when I'm hating on something. It's fucking baller. On the other hand, though, we see the like fourth order operation where it's like, well, to figure out how to do this, and we're hamstrung by the fact that Necromancer is the way it is. So then it's like, I come back to why couldn't I'm surprised still that there weren't more Ascendancy classes added. That's really where I know Nugi and I have talked about this over, and I'm curious what you would like. What do you have any thoughts on? Because like, yeah, I am a little confused. Like instead of, since there are these self-contained circles, it seems like it's easier to balance, right, rather than the whole tree. So I get that. That's it's an easier sort of pill to swallow. So like instead of being the Necromancer, which has to do everything, and therefore a smart person figures a way to exploit that, they would have there'd be, you know, a summoner that's a Templar that is good at specters, and a summoner that's a witch that's good at zombies, and then, you know, maybe they're both slightly good at golems, or, you know, however the hell they would do it.
Yeah.
I just feel like that would be the better solution. You know, I don't know. It does seem strange, because I feel like playing the last several leagues as summoner, I was like, there is no option besides necromancer, right?
Yeah.
Like you're just stuck.
I mean, you've got the golemancer, which can be elementalist, but that's kind of like
True.
You've kind of just getting the +1 golem on that, but I mean, again, that's specific to golems, and necromancer is still an amazing option because you still get so much minion damage out of it.
Right.
And really, I think the issue is just because of the scaling. Because if you look at melee builds, you know, you want to go Sunder. Okay, what viable ascendancies do we have for this? You got Slayer. You've got Gladiator. You could probably make Champion work if you really wanted, but it's probably not necessary because you've already got Fortify options.
Right.
And,
Well, you can go for
Juggernaut.
Berserker, Juggernaut.
Yeah.
Like, you've got so many options.
I think
Probably
Because-
you could do Ranger, probably, if there's like some sort of flask build.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, you could go Raider. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pathfinder.
I think
That's
what
right,
you're
Pathfinder Raider.
touching on there is the fact that you can say, I want to go a lot of leech with a two-hander. I can go instant leech with Volpact. I can go flasks, or I can go auras, or I can go block. And all these are kind of generic archetypes within the ascendancy that's not specific to the skill, but more the mechanic, like either the leech mechanic or the. And that's kind of what if I want something on spectre, or on not specters but on minions, I would like to have something where I felt like I could go over the more aura heavy minion build without going necromancer, or a block heavy minion build, or a low life, or like any of these other archetypes that I would like to play. That's not just, well, necromancer and then we like figure it out after that.
Yep. That's pretty much it. And I mean, the only other thing that I've seen work is, again, Crip's animate weapon Guardian, and that's simply because animate weapon has so much damage by itself that, you know, you don't really need to go necromancer on it. You can go these things where you get, you know, 12k ES, 12k armor, 12k evasion, and, you know, run all these auras and get a ton of ES. Which, by the way, even now, even after the ES nerfs, it's still getting 11k ES. I just want to point that out. It's it actually still gets a ton of ES.
Yeah.
But that's simply because anime weapon does so much damage by itself that you don't really need to go necro. But yeah, I would like to see more ascendancies, more ascendancy options for summoners, just more than just necromancer. Because, like, that's really all you have is there's no other option that gives you the amount.
The only thing I can think of, if I had to like be a little bit memey, you would use the umbilicus maybe with the Pathfinder or something like that. That's
God.
that's like the only place where you have, because there's some interaction between a belt and flasks, and then maybe that could work out. Cheese that.
Or like a berserker, so that you actually have some sort of leech.
Yeah.
Without... Yeah.
Does GGG consider totems minions, the way they think about it?
I don't think so.
No,
I feel
because you've got the minion and totem elemental resistance support,
right.
and it specifically has to say minions and totems.
And totems, yeah, okay. Because I was going to say that I was wondering if they would, devil's advocate, make the argument that Templar, what's the totem? Is it Hierophant? I forget the name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if that's totems, it's not really the same thing. Yeah, it's, you know, it's really, I have to say, that's the interesting part to me about it is how they, because classically, who got minion gems? Was it always Witch and Templar? I thought, right? Both got.
Oh, did Templar get them as
So
well?
I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
up until.
Templar.
Okay.
Yeah,
I've seen Templar summoners, and I think
Yeah.
Trick made Templar summoners. We've seen Witch summoners, Templar, Scion was
Yeah.
what I did for Animate before Ascendancy
Yeah.
came out.
Yeah. That's yeah.
So-
Anyway, so just to change topics a little bit, I'm curious what you think. Do you think that really? Do you think that racing is something that would benefit from, you know, I don't know, attention from GGG? Because I'm just curious. It's nice to talk to somebody else who's doing the community events. It's been very interesting to me, sort of reading people's reactions in the chats or on Reddit or wherever, and people are like, it seems like people are clamoring a little bit for something, but then I come back to, I always wonder if people actually got what they were looking for. I don't think they would be happy. You know, like the thing that's happening right now is like a cool event that people can watch, participate. You watch whichever 2 events you're interested in, you know, or all of them, none of them, whatever, see the highlights. I'm just curious what you think of somebody who's done the commentary and raced in it.
In terms of what GGG can do, I'm not really sure what they could actually do in addition. Like when you look at their race seasons in comparison to these community events, the race seasons, you've got the problem of, okay, when do we do this? You have a whole lot more people, because these are official races on their servers. These are actual leagues, so it's a lot easier to regulate and have people actually participate in them, and then, you know, be able to go back into the VODs and look at the people that placed well, and, you know, see what they did in return. But you have these problems where they have like all these different time slots they have to fill, so they can get everybody in on them. And so when it comes to like the community events, we just have the streamers and stuff, which, you know, these are the people that generally do the best in races as well. You know, you've got Dead and Doom, who's been doing really well. You've got Fightgar recently participated, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So you've got these sorts of people that are you know, the top racers and are likely going to be winning anyways. So it's kind of hard to say. It's kind of hard to say, you know, what could GGG be doing instead of like, or to help these community races even. Other than, you know,
you've been right. Didn't you join? You're joined sometime in closed beta, right? Obviously,
yeah.
You've been racing. Now, did you race back then?
Yeah.
Okay.
I remember I raced with Nugi even.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So yeah. So do you think that do you think that was more fun, that racing, or do you think if you had to pick a season or pick something where you had the most fun, or like time period, what would you say was the most fun that you had?
It's pretty tough to say. Like, racing in general, like, has come a long way in terms of how far we can get in races. So, you know, back then, a 3-hour race would end in ledge in Cruel. And we would spend like an hour and a half just doing normal Act 1 and Act 2. So it's really kind of tough to say where I had the most fun. Probably around the time of Season 6 and Season 7. And then we had the whole, like, after that, we had the whole problem with cheaters and races. We had Wookiee come in.
After that?
Yes. After that. Well, whenever.
It was during that as well. But Wookiee was the one where, like, it really, really started becoming a problem.
Well, I would say galvanized the community because it was so fucking obvious that he was cheating.
Oh, yeah. Right? He was full blatant.
Like, yeah, exactly. I think he would didn't he name some of his characters? I'm cheat. Like, I mean,
did he?
I am actively cheating. I feel like there was maybe not quite as obvious as that, but he definitely had some very, very sassy names.
Yeah, and CWU had an entire article about it, about cheaters.
Wasn't
and
that before that though?
I think that was after that, because that was around the time where I stopped playing because I was getting burnt out. Because he started playing the classes that I was playing, and I'm like, I every time I lost, I'm like, well,
yeah.
I mean, what can you do?
Yeah.
I don't want to get my account banned because, you know, I decided to, because the only chance I had is to, you know, cheat against him because, well, he had that much advantage. He could see blue packs from 2 screens away, and I'm like missing blue packs because I can't do that.
Do you think
so it's like,
do you think they would need to solve that, like the cheating issue? because if we're being honest here, it's not like PoE has not been like, to my knowledge, it's not been that hard to find a way to cheat, at least for races. Yeah. So would you want something like specter mode first before maybe them going back into races? Like, would you be discouraged from joining a race season due to cheating, or would you still play it?
I would probably still play it, just because I mean I love the game. It's fun, and racing is fun, and trying to get better at going faster is always fun. But you know, spectator mode would be great. Being able to watch what other people are doing in races would be great. And you know, we have like an entire speedrunning community that could that, you know, are trying to get the fastest times for Val, for Dominus, for Malachi, for all these things. And like having a race season where we can just spectate these things, spectate everybody that's doing these, is even if they're not streaming, would be kind of nice. But like, how do you kind of do that without screwing up their instances, without screwing up people that have bad internet or, you know, problematic internet? And this would actually solve a few problems if they manage to get a spectator mode. Is it worth the development time too? Is another.
What would it solve?
But it would solve people that are like, the thing is, it would get rid of people that are trying to hide specific strats in racing potentially. So, which
you know
right
they
now,
would.
Well, they could make it private.
It would be
couldn't you?
disabled.
Yeah, you could just have that option to disable.
You'd have to opt in.
Like obviously, GGG would always be able to like to lurk what you're doing and how you're doing it, but
Pretty sure
they could probably do that right now.
I'm pretty sure they've always.
I know.
That's how they caught Cybrix.
For like 3 to 4 years now, I remember Neon talking
true,
about this. They have a live gear update thing at some and that was before they implemented profiles onto the website. So I don't know how live it is, but they can pretty. I think it's the same functionality as the gear thing on the website now, but it would. I don't know. It'd be really tough to see how they would make the spectator, because like you think.
Well, they do.
They have
it for PvP, right?
Yeah.
So it's just it was told to me again a long time ago that the barrier to entry for this working on racing was desync. That's what was told to me. So when I hear that and then desync is fixed, my brain goes, does that mean it works now? Maybe it's, of course, nothing's as simple as that. It's to me that's about the only thing that I think is holding the community things back, is you have to be able to stream, you have to be able to and then your computer has to be able to handle that, right? So people could stream, but then their computer poops out or whatever. But so I feel like if there was something there where there's a little bit of support from GGG, but maybe that's coming, it would get people very excited for it, because I don't know, anyone could participate. Now maybe the community races by Nugiyen and Havoc would still only have 4-6 people.
No, if we could have it, because we have to like use browser source for everyone, so it's very taxing on your CPU. Havoc's computer actually blue screened because he was overclocking to kind of like get all this running, and that's just 4 browser sources. If you add in more, it gets crazy. So we can't do like 16. If we could do 16, we could do some crazy stuff, right? Because then you can have elimination, you can have people like dropping out, and like you could see the field kind of like coming in together, and you could have like you could have 48 even. You could have 128. I don't know, like just keep going.
But like, then questions come in like, what do we really want from this? How would you get 4 spectator mode clients running and showing at the same time without because that's 4 PoE clients. That's still 4 PoE clients at once. That's
Yeah, that's true.
Well, why wouldn't you just be able to switch between people?
Because you still like if you want to show multiple people at once.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Show,
at the same
yeah.
time. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And then I think the other issue, other than the whole PvP stuff, if you think about spectating in PvP versus spectating in racing, well, how do you check? Like when they're at the stashes, you don't have a spectator for stashes, right? Well, I mean you could, but you can't like live see. I don't think there's like a spectator for vendors, for example. So like if somebody's in town doing vendors, what are they buying?
Right.
And since we don't have custom leagues for this, and custom leagues would be the number 1 thing that GGG could do for this, obviously, but you're giving specific people the power to create custom leagues, and then that's a security issue, because what if this person gets hacked? What if somebody else gets the power to do this and manages to abuse this? Like that's the other issue with that is the whole security issue stuff. But I don't know. It's really tough to say what they could do to improve it. But I mean, a spectator mode would be nice.
I guess a spectator mode would be really difficult, right? Because as you were talking, can you speaking to clients, you can't log into that many instances, right? If you wanted to spectate 16 people and having 16 clients, we can't do that, can we?
You'd have to have you'd have to have like a virtual machine going. I mean, the thing is, right, on some level, I'm assuming if it got to the point where it was made sense to have 16 people going, you'd have to have a camera guy, right? Like League of Legends does.
We would have
right?
that. We have that already.
Yeah,
so that's not the issue.
Okay.
You also have to consider how many people are connecting to this instance at once to spectate. Like,
well, you could limit that.
I don't think instances are meant to have like. If you give this spectator client to too many people, what happens when you have 300 people in an instance?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, because everyone actually has the. Yeah, you're right. Because everyone is in the instance. Maybe not with a character, but they are in the instance. Yeah, that's true. No, there are some limitations there for sure.
Yeah. So, and then what happens? Like, you have to consider every abuse case too. Like this is probably why we don't have better trading at this point, because you have to consider every single abuse case. What happens if somebody creates a botnet to use the spectator client and suddenly flood your instance with 1,000 people trying to watch it, which aren't actually real people, they're just bots, and suddenly your instance lags to crap.
Well, okay. I mean, I think there's a point that you're making that's very, very good. That same rationale is, why would I ever step out of my house, right? Because I could die 500,000 ways. So I mean, okay, at some point it's like, okay. I mean, just to push back a little bit. I mean, I agree with you that probably plays a part into why they haven't fixed trading. I also think there is a lot of, it hasn't cost us anything yet, so why the fuck would we fix it? Because ultimately, it's capitalist enterprise. They're in this to make money, which is good, because a game that's well funded and making money means it's a game that we're enjoying and other people are playing. I just think that they're only going to fix things when it becomes, it's hurting them. I think desync was fixed because it hurt them. They could see that people were leaving, and I'm sure they must have done surveys and stuff, or I don't know, just talk to people, and they're like, well, I'd come back, but desync blows. Okay, well, that's something we have to fix then. So
yeah, and I think trading is definitely on their list of things that they're working on. They're not going to actively talk about it because this is GGG. They like these things to be surprises. Who in the world was thinking that they were going to be persistent specters on 3.0.2? Nobody. They like to surprise us. So while they're not saying
didn't they say they wanted to have that though?
Yeah, they did. They said they wanted to have it. Yeah, their goal was to try and hopefully have it for 3.0, but they didn't manage to do it, and that was the last thing we heard about. So, the next we've heard the same thing about trading before that, is that they had some things in trading for the in the works but we never got them. They kind of fell through for some reason or another, and we didn't really get more details on that. So,
persistent trading. That's what we got. 3.1. Yeah.
So yeah, maybe they have like maybe this next expansion is entirely like trade focused. Who knows? It could be a possibility. They like to, you know.
heard it here, confirmed by Uber.
You heard it here. Uber's got the inside info. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually have no info on this at all, but
You have to say that now.
you know, who knows? With GGG, they like to surprise us, and you know that's what when you have an announcement like that, think about how many people are gonna hear about that and then suddenly come back, and because they're like, holy crap, they did trading. I wasn't expecting this at all, dude. I gotta play this next league, right?
Right. Let's see. I want to link something just because here we go. Let me see. Here we go. So to end here, because I'm linking it in Discord right now.
Okay.
And we're gonna play a little game here. It's linked in the Discord. This is so this has been linked a couple times. I guess if people, you could link it to your chat, Nugi. I guess if people really care.
Paste.
It's the most popular metal band names, which is apparently how they're picking.
What?
They're picking league names. This Chris has linked this before. So
Most popular metal band names? What?
yes, this is how they pick the names for leagues.
So we're getting Requiem now?
Yeah, it is. Look at how many names are on there. We've got
Yeah.
Nemesis, we've got Torment, we've got Legacy.
Prophecy. Yeah, Legacy.
Prophecy. Tempest was originally named Eclipse.
Eclipse, right? Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
I remember actually. I actually was like data mining that in 2.0. They had eclipses in the actual files as how they named Tempest.
I mean, even things like Insanity. I bet that was what you could reasonably call flashback leagues, right? They call it flashback, but I mean it's Insanity.
Yeah.
What's that?
So. What are you laughing about?
We can hear it.
Just whatever that sound was in the background there.
It's Welcome to New York City, where apparently someone's like, I'm going to bang a metal pole with my metal pole as loud as I possibly can. It was the loudest thing. It's just some dude across the street. Yeah, you know, whatever. Mind your business. But so everyone has to pick a name and see if we get it right for the next league.
Oh, for the next league?
Yeah. In fairness, in fairness, in the Reddit thread, I said, necropsy, but I want to change now. Now that I've looked at the list closely, I'm gonna say odium.
Okay, I'm gonna say dementia, where everyone forgets about trade, and Chris is really happy.
They forget all about like whatever.
What's trade again?
Yeah, entirely.
Right, Uber, what's your pick?
Oh man, this is tough. There's so many options though. Like I could see a whole lot of them. Legion could be good. Like I could see Legion, honestly.
Okay, so you're going with Legion. So I'm going to tell you what the Odium League is. See?
Okay.
Odium League is monsters are filled with hatred the more of their brethren that dies. So as you clear a zone, monsters get crazier and crazier and get angrier and angrier and can find you from farther and farther away. And they get more and more power. So when there's one monster left, it's insane. So that leads to interesting, and of course, there is some scaling property where you get better loot, because the whole point. So if you kill every monster before you kill the boss, and the boss is the last one left, the boss is filled with lots of rage and wants to kill you, but it also drops better loot. So there's my idea for the Odium League. So,
I remember that was I remember hearing something like that before. I feel like you've talked about a similar concept before.
I've never heard about it.
I don't know.
I've never heard about it.
I feel like I just made everything I set up, but there could be something I've talked about before where I like that mechanic.
I think I'm
of things giving us better drops as things get harder, because I feel that is the one thing that GGG I feel like they've. Well, so it's okay. Just to, do you think that animate weapon would be as strong if we didn't have so much bullshit on the ground? Right? Because isn't that a main reason why it's so strong? Just
Yeah, it is.
millions of
It is.
weapons.
I mean, if you look at Breach League in particular,
Yeah.
holy crap, was that weapons
Animated
everywhere?
heaven. It's great.
Oh man, dude, it was animate weapon heaven until you had like 100 of them, and then you were just lagging everywhere.
Right.
So.
All right. Anyway, so what? How does your league work, Noogie? What is it? Dementia?
Yeah.
Is that a name in there? Where,
Yeah, Dementia. 22. Between Eclipse, next to Maelstrom,
yeah.
Eclipse,
Oh, yeah.
and Astronaut. How does this...
Astaroth.
Astaroth. Oh, Astaroth. Okay, how does it work?
How did it work? Yeah. Astaroth.
I don't know. I think... Let's see. How could that work? You enter someone's hideout and...
I get it. It's dementia. I get it, dude.
I don't know.
Astaroth in demonology is the great Duke of Hell in the first hierarchy with Beelzebub and Lucifer. He is part of the evil trinity. I think I've seen that word before, but I don't think I knew anything about it. So let's see, you learn something new every day. Apparently, very popular metal band name. Okay. All right. So,
I think it
how
was
does
like
Legion?
also, yeah, Legion. Like, I don't know about Legion because like when I think about it, I'm like, well, you kind of have something sort of like war bands and things like that, things that are invading zones and.
Well, didn't warbands suck? Wasn't that the consensus in general?
Yeah.
Kind of, yeah.
So make a better warbands then.
Make a better war bands, exactly. So you have like, maybe they drop certain like fragments that lead you to their like actual like main zone instead of just only being okay. Well, they add things to instances, but whatever. It needs to be more content than what warbands gave us.
So what if following on that, you collected things that you turned in cities? Like you had to collect the fragments, you had to collect chaos orbs. Every single thing has to be turned in, and once you get to certain amounts turned in, you would get like some sort of staff that you would then summon something you would fight. What do you think about that idea? It's a community-wide effort. Only one person though would get the staff. There'd only be one copy of those. Do you think that would work in the PvE community?
Only one staff?
I don't think like having like one person having.
So I'm talking about the opening of Ahn'Qiraj in World of Warcraft, where people you had to work as a community, like getting wool and bullshit, like just lots of stuff, and one person got the title of like the gong bearer, I forget it, and the black. You got the little black mount.
God.
So
every game has done something like that. It just doesn't work. Where like you do the community thing where into one thing. Yeah.
But just imagine
one person gets it.
Yeah, like imagine that though in PoE. I feel like there would be literal bloodshed over something like that happening. Because in World of Warcraft, I feel like it was bad enough, but you had enough like normal people playing World of Warcraft. I feel like PoE is much more on the more hardcore end of things, so people are ready to shiv each other for the I mean, me included. I'm just saying.
I would like a new series.
Can you imagine Reddit? Can you imagine Reddit after like the first thing gets done? This is bullshit.
There would be just, oh my god, there would be so much. I think honestly justified anger a little bit.
Yeah.
So
that's probably why we're not gonna get that.
Like, I mean, if you look at the past leagues though, every single one of them has like these little bits of content added into certain areas, and then they have like this huge area, added into the end. So you look at Breach League, we have breaches into the main zones, and then you collect these fragments, and you get a breach stone, which is a specialized version of that. You look at Harbinger, you have the Harbinger mobs, and then you have Harbinger orbs that allow you to get the beachhead maps. So following that theme, you would probably do something like that. You could revisit certain past leagues that may not have worked because they were just like kind of boring or something, and you could expand upon that. So you can do something like that with warbands and do Legion.
Okay. I mean, I guess that's true. That is a theme they've been doing. So I guess that's. I mean, I like that in the sense of, revisiting something with a different spin, or whatever.
Or even with like a different look, looking at it from a different angle and seeing, how could we have done this better, and maybe we can do a new league with that, or we could expand. We could get rid of warbands and replace it with this system.
Okay. Because what was the problem with warbands? I feel like wasn't warbands opposite Tempest, or am I wrong? It was.
Yeah,
was it?
Because it was the whole where you could find them on the.
Find.
You could find the warband. You could find the Tempest.
Yeah.
I still come back to it. I really,
I like that a lot. I wanna see them do that stuff with the Atlas, like in general.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Well, didn't someone post that on Reddit where there was like a red cloud on the Atlas, and then they were using red in the picture, but like here is the area where it's like lights up or something's happening. I don't know. Mm-hmm. It feels like it could be something they could do given that we have the Atlas now. Yeah.
Okay. They could do like an entire weather system for the Atlas. So you've got like. Well, it's raining in Dungeon for some reason, even though it's an indoor map.
Right, with a chance of chaos orbs and lots of salt about anything. Yeah. So yeah. Well, I think that's a good place to end. We have some great ideas. Yeah. GGG can buy any of them for the one-time low price of $3,000, and just contact our publicist for that information. And yes, the publicist is at Crippers, Twitch NL/Crip. Just contact him. He's our publicist. So I don't know if people have heard of him before. He's this kind of low budget, up and coming Path of Exile streamer. So you should you should check him out. Mm-hmm. Right? So yeah, that's a joke. People are gonna get all salty. I'm just joking. No, I want to thank Uber for coming. It was great. It was a lot of fun. A lot of very minion heavy. I hope people are okay with that. We wanted to dedicate some time to minion builds.
Oh, people are very hyped about the minions right now, so I think
I know it's very minion. I'm pretty hyped about it too, to be perfectly honest. So is there anything you'd like to say in closing, Uber? A shout out to your fans, or a love letter?
Well, I mean, I thank fans every day on stream when I'm streaming. So, I mean,
Oh, I see how it is. That's fine. That's totally cool. Whatever. Great. Anyway,
I mean, really, thanks for everybody for watching, and thanks for having me too.
Wow, Uber's so popular. He thanks people all the time. They're coming out there, is heaping praise on him all the time. So no, it was really great. Thank you very much for coming. Do we know what's going on this weekend, Noogie, yet, or is it too early to say something?
Oh, we're talking racing. We've announced in the Discord already some of the races. Yes. So there's going to be the wheel, the community chosen skill. We're going to have the 2v2, and then there is one more. Let me quickly no, I don't know. I actually don't remember the last one, even though we sat down yesterday and figured them out. But yeah, there's one more. Also very fun and exciting. So check that out.
Did you say the 2v2, the Twink Sunder Showdown?
Oh, Twink Sunder Showdown, that's right. We want to have a rematch with Twink, with Fightguard and Dead and Doom, Hellman, and but we need to figure. That being said, we don't know whether or not they can participate yet. If they can't, we're gonna find some equally strong players. But there's gonna be a Twink Sunder Showdown on that.
Poor Hellman.
And a little shout out here to Mr. Llama, because he's actually providing with some of the tech for the wheel. So that's gonna be really. I think that's what's gonna be really fun.
Oh no! Is it gonna be like the like his what is it called, that like the Hell Bell things that he does, where
Man vs. Stream?
Yeah, Man vs. Stream.
It's partly inspired from that. It's like there's been a lot of different suggestions, and then I remembered he had something, and then there was something over there, and we could do this, and how can you put it into PoE? But yeah, it's gonna be fun on Saturday. No, Sunday. This is Sunday. Last event on Sunday.
This is okay. Well, on that note, I'm very excited. Be sure to check out the VODs if you want to check it out. Big props to Noogie and Havoc are putting all this stuff together, so it's pretty sweet. And I think that's basically it. You can, of course, always find us at thecoffeetalkpodcast.com, and you can subscribe, RSS, all this stuff. It's jazz. People know it's point.
We should still say it.
And you can find, yeah, we should still say it, of course. And you can find Uber at his channel, which is Twitch TV. I don't know. I just type in Uber and it comes up. Yeah, the Uber Elite. I type in Uber and it works when I type it in my browser. But so yes, the Uber Elite. And you can find Noogie here and on his YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube/nugiyen.
Which is it's very easy.
Very easy.
So yeah, thank you for everybody.
Yeah, it's great.
Take care.